Everybody, welcome to Politech. This is Dale, your host, and today I've got an exciting guest. I've been waiting a while to get on my show, and I'm just going to give her a little bit of introduction myself, and I'll be able to have her talk about her experience and why she's in this and all of the reasons why we're all getting into this at this point. Jayne Converse, I first saw you on TikTok, and I was really impressed watching your videos. And anybody who knows me, especially my audience and knows me in my profession, knows that I only bring people onto my show that are first factual in their information and then have the best interest of the audience. With that said, you've got a lot of experience, and every time I sit down and watch your videos, I learn so much more. I think I know something, and then I listen to your videos. And, oh, no wonder she's a teacher, and I'm not, you know. So, Jay, welcome onto the show. You give us this kind of a little introduction of yourself, and then we can jump into some real important questions and answers from you in regards to what's going on politically.
Okay, well, thanks for having me here,
No
Dale.
worries.
I am a history teacher and government teacher and have been for over 20 years. I've taught the gamut, essentially. And what has become very clear to me over the past, I guess, 10 years, but it's come into specific relief in the last year, is that so few people actually know U.S. history, like real U.S. history, what actually happened, and they have absolutely no idea how the government is supposed to operate. So if you don't know how it operates, then how do you know when it's not operating correctly? So it's my job as a teacher to help my students understand not just how systems work, but how they function throughout history and how historical perspective helps us to understand what is going on right now. So we have to have that perspective in order to understand how we got here.
No, it makes complete sense. I'm going to throw two things in there because I was a terrible student when I was in high school.
So was I.
And I didn't pay attention. I mean, I had a civics class, I had like a American history class, but I paid very little attention to it, and I didn't really learn how government actually functions and works until, to be honest with you, probably until when I was in my 40s when I got involved with politics, and I started realizing that these structures are so important to have. So I appreciate teachers as trying to plant that in our heads earlier, and plus I feel bad because I gave all my teachers such a hard time. So,
Oh, did you? See, now I didn't do that so much, but I
well,
come from a line of teachers. My dad
there
is
you
a
go.
history teacher. I'm a history teacher. There's cousins, you name it. Um, but I was the worst student. I didn't bug teachers, but I was I didn't pay attention. I didn't want to be there. So I think
Yeah,
that's one way I've been able to. I know what didn't work,
yeah,
so I try to keep my students' attention, and I think that's how I've gotten my storytelling skills.
yeah. And they're great. Let me restate so I don't get hit with by all teachers when we post this. I wasn't mean to teachers. I just didn't do my homework. I didn't take notes. I didn't do any of those things. And also because I was an athlete, I was a football player, so you felt like you get away with everything, right? At that time.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah, football players they definitely got away with a lot back in the day. I
back in the day.
graduated, I won't even say what year. I'm old.
Not as old as me. I graduated in 1983.
Okay, you got a few years on me, but
I
not
got,
too many.
there you go. Well, thanks for sharing that. So, part of what I asked you on, because you're so rich with information, and what we're going through right now in America is disturbing. And I found it disturbing from the minute he came down the escalator, all the way to this point. And I kind of want to talk about the breakdown of things like the checks and balances, and kind of go over the history of like how this sort of all came together, and how we can learn from what happened along the way. So I want to look at your analysis and your breakdown on the checks and balances that existed before and what's happened to them currently, because it seems like all the things we believed and we learned over time is not true. Or is it true?
Is it not true or is it true? What we have learned about checks and balances is that, it's built in there, it's baked into the cake when they wrote the Constitution, and that it's just going to stay that way. Each branch is going to check the other one automatically so that no one branch becomes too powerful, because we don't want that. Certainly, the Founding Fathers did not want concentration of power in any one branch. They were terrified of having a tyrant, a king, in charge to accumulate too much power. So that system of checks and balances, it's basically held until recently. I mean, checks and balances don't just magically hold together. It takes people who want to keep those checks and balances in place, who enforce those checks and balances. And when you have people in Congress or on the Supreme Court or on federal courts or in the executive who have no interest whatsoever in maintaining those checks and balances, that's when we got all out of whack. I mean, there's been a concentration of power in the executive that's been going on for quite some time, but it is not accelerated like this until Donald Trump's presidency, his second round.
And this second round it's just a total horror show, to be honest with you. And I'm sure you feel that as well, because he feels empowered. One, this is his last term. And, supposedly, unless he's going to seek a third term, which is possible.
It's unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. But we thought a lot of things that he was doing right now was either unconstitutional, but for some reason he thinks the executive order overrides everything that exists as far as checks and balances, and there's nobody to check and balance him on this stuff at this point, and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, the Supreme Court. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The Supreme Court has given him basically carte blanche. I mean, he can get away with basically murder if he stood in the middle of the street on Fifth Avenue, like he said all those years ago. He could get away with it. They gave him the powers of a king, and shame on them. So if how do the courts enforce their rulings? Let's say they were doing their job. How do they enforce it if the chief law enforcement officer of the country, the person who's supposed to be, literally his job is to execute the laws of this nation, if he's the one breaking them all, then how does the judiciary enforce their rulings? How does Congress enforce their laws if Trump is the one, and his people, obviously, and his cabinet, whatever, if they're the ones who are meant to do it, and he put a bunch of lackeys in charge?
I love it.
No,
it's completely true. I mean, he has yes men's in place where at least his first round, he had some common sense people in there, and that's what bothered him. He needed to replace them with all yes people, and that's what he's got, from the DOJ to the FBI, the courts as well. So all of those checkpoints are just manipulated and pushed towards his well-being and his decision-making, which is very poor, as we know.
Beyond poor. I don't think he's actually making most of these decisions. I think it's whoever whispers in his ear last, and then he just, just a bunch of nonsense, and he creates chaos. And I believe the people, his puppet masters there, I believe they know this, and if they want to hide what's happening over here, they just have to whisper something in his ear, and he'll make, the big shiny object that'll be on this side, instead of doing whatever the heck they plan on doing, which usually has to do with consolidating their power or making more money for themselves or their friends. So there are a lot of bad actors in place right now. But this is what really bugs me with the checks and balances. This is Congress. It is Article 1 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Founding Fathers put it there for a reason, because they did think that was the branch that was responsive to the people. So it should be the most important branch. Not that it was given a ton more power, but the fact that it was responsive to the people, it was more important. But they have abdicated that responsibility. They have abdicated their duty 100% because they could end all of this madness tomorrow. Tomorrow. I've been saying this for almost a year, around a year. All this madness could end tomorrow if Congress just acknowledged their power, if they just stepped into it and they impeached him, because there is more than enough grounds to impeach this man.
Definitely.
Yeah. Then it would go to the Senate, and they would convict him, and they'd remove him, and then we could do that with the whole line of them, all the bad actors in his administration. It could all end, but they are choosing to enable him.
Yeah. And why do you think that is? I'm just interested in your opinion. I've got my opinion of why that's happening, just being involved in this arena for so long, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
I believe there are a few reasons. One, I think the most important one is fear. They're afraid of retaliation because, let's face it, Trump's base, if we look at like ICE, the MAGA base, they're kind of thuggish.
Yeah.
I hate to like call people names or anything, but if you look at it, if you look at what ICE has been doing, and those who are part of his base, if they're okay with people being shot and killed in the streets for no reason, for rounding up little kids and separating families and doing it brutally. It's not like, okay, I have a warrant and I'm going to bring you over here, you know, we're going to put you in nice safe space while we figure this all out. No, this is like throwdown, smack heads. They don't care.
Yeah.
And anybody who's okay with it, in my opinion, will have some serious moral lapses, and that to me is thug mentality.
Oh, it definitely is. It's thug mentality, and it's also a cult mentality. There's this so much belief in what Donald Trump is, but what he really isn't, because he's really a snake oil salesman. And he's one of the best that I've actually ever seen. And he's fooled a lot of people, and he's still fooling people. And there's others that are involved who voted for him and don't really support him, but they don't want to admit they're wrong. And so they go on supporting him because of those particular reasons, and they don't want to be wrong. I mean, my sister's going to give me for this. My sister voted for him, and until this day, like, she still supports him. I mean, I love my sister, I get along with her, but she still supports him no matter what. And so, you know, and I can say that's probably because she doesn't want to admit to me, because I'm her younger brother, that she was wrong, you know?
That's a large part of it. These people have invested so much of their identity into Donald Trump, and that is cult mentality.
That is.
Yeah, when that identity fusion, they are one, you know? So if they admit he's wrong, then they're admitting they're wrong. And I feel like that's something that people in general, nobody likes to admit they're wrong. When nobody likes to, but we're wrong sometimes. And that's one of the things that I really focused on with my own children and my students, is that we're all human and we all make mistakes. I don't get everything right. You don't get everything right. The biggest thing is that we can admit when we're wrong, and if an apology is necessary, then apologize. It's not a weakness, it's a strength. To me, the most important message to get through to the MAGA cult, the Trump cult.
No, I agree with you. I mean, their main argument back to you, and, you know, I hear this so many times, is you have Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And, you know, of course, that's something that the Trump team kind of came up with. Yeah, Trump kind of made up, like everything else he makes up, and it catches on, and people bite into it, mostly his base, and it gets pushed around on social media and all of these different things. You know, I think of this whole episode that we're having since his first 45 is like a bad episode of Michael Savage's show on steroids. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Michael Savage. No, I don't.
Who's Michael Savage?
Oh, Michael Savage was one of the big names in conservative radio for decades. And his main thing was to push anger and hate and lies out to the base. He probably, if I were to think about like how this all built up over time, because I was actually, oh man, I'm going to be ashamed of this, but I was a Republican for a long time. My
There's
dad
no
was,
shame in that. There's no
I don't
shame
know, these days it is.
now. But no, see, there's a difference. I have to stop you before you go into
Yeah,
your dad, whatever. There are conservatives, right?
true. Yeah,
Conservatives, true conservatives that would have
that's right.
normally voted with Republicans because of the way the party, their platform was before. You know,
That's
I
right.
don't have a problem with a conservative. We can disagree about a lot of stuff, but we still can respect one
Yeah.
another. MAGA's a different story.
Meg is a new beast. It really is. It's a morph into like, like they fell into some goo somewhere and they came out as these grotesque, non-thinking, non-moral people that just kind of agree with everything that Donald Trump has to say and do. And, that's concerning, and you know that as well. I'm going to ask you this quick question. If one of the forefathers was on this podcast with us right now,
Okay.
and you can pick anyone that you want to represent you,
Okay.
and what would they say about the situation right now? Like, what would they say to the public?
Oh, good Lord. Who would I pick? I think I'm going with John Adams because
Okay, good choice.
I've always had a thing with John Adams.
Yeah.
It's just so handsome. What would he say? That basically they have taken, people in government today have taken the government that they crafted very carefully. Now, granted, there are lots of flaws. It was for elite white men. It never
Sure.
addressed women and slavery, all this other stuff. So there's lots of flaws in it. But the construct of the checks and balances and the three branches of government, he'd say that basically we have torn it up and taken a dump on it. He would have said
Yeah.
it in very formal legalese, but that's
Very
the,
elegant words.
yes, very. He loved to talk, and he'd also be talking about it for the next 5 hours. That's how he was. But that's what he would say, how dare you? How dare you take what we spent all this time trying to create and you just took a shit on it? Sorry I swore, but
No,
no.
that's okay. I'll censor that out. No, I won't. Everything stays in here. But anyway, no, that was an honest, view of what better than me. I wouldn't know as a historian. I'm very poor, besides watching like the History Channel type of a thing. So I appreciate you putting that in there. I want to talk a little bit about America First, right? And things like historical fascism. Everybody's kind of got their idea, but what do you think? What do scholars say about that? What do teachers say about it? Like, what do you talk about and think about when you talk about this in a class or when you talk about this online?
The roots of America First,
Yes.
I say that it has very deep tentacles in our history. America First didn't start with Donald Trump.
No, I didn't.
It started, the first known accounts I can think of were with Woodrow Wilson prior to World War I, where he was basically a proponent of America First, meaning let's keep us out of this conflict. Okay? And then during the war, it became about, it was still America First, but now it's like, you better put our place, now that we're at war, you better not speak out against our government. So he was taking away people's rights during World War I.
Sure.
And that was in the name of America First. And then we had that period between wars in the 20s and the 30s, and we had the growth of the German-American Bund in our country during that time period,
Okay.
where it was a openly fascist, pro-Hitler movement that had tens of thousands, if not more, I can't remember the exact number, but thousands of members in the United States. And in 1909, thousands of them gathered at Madison Square Garden.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, the German-American Bund, and the garden was completely filled with images of the swastika and George Washington. And
Wow.
yeah, It was absolutely crazy. So that was all about nativism and isolationism.
Sure.
Okay. They
Sounds
weren't
pretty
like,
darn familiar right
doesn't
now.
it? It
Yeah.
sounds very, very familiar. I mean, during that period is when they passed the Immigration Act in 1924 that said,
Hmm.
oh, we're putting quotas in place. We only want so many Italians and so many Jews and so many this and that and the other thing, you know?
Yeah.
That was like the level of fear that was embedded into the America First movement. They spread that fear through propaganda all around the country. You can trace this. I just went from pre-World War I. You can go to the McCarthy era in the
Yeah.
1950s. You can go right up through Ronald Reagan in the 90s. He said America first as well. And so when people
Yeah.
think that Donald Trump was the first person to come along with this America First ideology, that we want to keep people out of this country, people, the other, he's
The,
not even close to the first.
he's not, and he's taken it where he's owning it now, like almost everything he does, and he's never original. Everybody knows that who is not a mega cultist realizes that nothing he does is original. It's either borrowed, stolen, or it's given to him in a whisper in his ear by Stephen Miller or one of those people in his administration, which is, you know, I think a path that's throughout his career and his lifetime has been something that's always happened, where he's never really had his original idea or his original money to work on anything. When we look at all of his failures, I was just having this conversation with somebody about all his personal debt that he went through, not only his business debt that he went through, and that was hidden. So interesting stuff. How do you see, because that's a lot of historical stuff that you talked about, when did that start creeping in? I mean, did it start really with Trump, or did it start prior? We can think about when the American vote was switching after Nixon got impeached, and they were kind of looking for, and you can correct me
They
because I'm not a
never
historian.
impeached him. He never was impeached.
He never was impeached, right?
He was going to be impeached and
Oh,
removed.
that's right. And
Republicans back in the day
right.
actually had a spine and said, you don't have the votes. So he resigned instead.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for the correction on that
No
one.
problem.
See, that's why I should have gone to class. But with all of these things, and they're looking afterwards, like, where are we going to get these votes for? And they looked at the Christian vote afterwards. And in my eyes, in my mind, that's kind of where everything started, because then you start pulling into Christian values, which is not a bad thing, right, on its own. But when you start combining things like Christian values with politics, things start to change very,
Christian
very differently.
nationalism, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to jump on to that.
Mhm.
So what's your view, like, with that movement moving into like what we're doing, what's happening today?
The way I see it is they're painting anybody who is not like them. It's not about religion. These people
No.
don't care about religion. They care about power. And they care about isolating people who are not part of their group. So anybody who looks differently or prays differently, they just want to
No.
push them out of society. So they're doing this to get power, but there's a big voting group in this country that, you know, the evangelicals, who will vote. They're one issue voters, essentially, one issue, and their one issue is abortion. That's
Yeah,
it. You can
that's
talk
it.
to, I mean, there are a lot of Catholics that feel that way as well, although I was raised Catholic, my family does not feel that way. My stepmother, she is very Catholic, goes to church every
Yeah.
week, and she had an argument with the priest and said, this is about people's own choices. I choose not to have an abortion. They can choose otherwise. You can't tell them what to do. And that's coming from a diehard Catholic. But they exist.
Yeah.
They exist out there. These one issue voters, there's some that vote just for the Second Amendment. And they
Yeah.
don't look at the big picture. It's like,
No, they don't, and it's on the right. It's hard to find those voters that will just not pick that one thing that they think is so important that if they don't vote this particular way, they're going to have their gun rights taken away, or we're viciously aborting babies at 9 months, and all of these things,
that's
and that's a
called
lot of
giving birth.
misinformation.
That's called giving birth.
That's
Nobody
called giving
aborts.
birth. That's
Yeah.
right.
There's no abortions at 9 months. There's not even abortions. I mean, they
No,
mostly
nothing
happen
is
the
legal.
first 20 weeks tops.
Yeah.
Tops. And that's when there's usually something very wrong happening.
Oh,
But
definitely.
I
So,
digress.
I mean, these lies and this propaganda. I mean, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But they're just so outrageous in many ways. But people believe them. I want to talk a little bit about because this has been in the news quite a bit. Is the voter rights and voter suppression? And I want if you can kind of go through some of the history on that, and maybe we'll tie this together and like what's happening today.
Absolutely. Um, we have a long history of voter suppression in the United States. Uh, when the Civil War was over, there were three Reconstruction Amendments, and the last of those in 1870 was the 15th Amendment, which gave black men the right to vote. And when they gave black men the right to vote, well, now you had black men holding office. I believe over 600. There were
Yeah.
some in the U.S. Senate. There were some black men in the House of Representatives, in state legislatures, and with that rise in their power came the backlash, the Ku Klux Klan, who started a terror campaign against those who wished to vote. And it culminated in the massacre in Wilmington in 1898. There was a multiracial legislature, there we go,
There
multiracial
you go.
legislature that was voted in, and the white people in the area, the Klan, didn't like that, and they massacred them and ran the rest out of town. So these were democratically elected officials. Some were people of color, some were not, and they didn't respect the people's vote. They didn't respect it. So fast forward a little bit, this
Yeah.
Jim Crow era comes along, and they're putting in all kinds of obstacles, which is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
There were poll taxes. There were literacy tests. There was a grandfather clause that if your grandfather was a slave, then you could not vote. There were
Yeah.
all kinds of things in place to prevent poor people and black people from voting. And we know about the civil rights movement and how they had to really fight for the right to vote. Women, it took till 1920 to get the right to vote, but black people in America, it took till the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I mean, that's 100 years after the end of the Civil War for them to
Yeah.
get protections, federal protections, in order for them to vote again. Now we see today, if I fast forward, I mean, there's certainly
Yeah.
other things. Shelby County versus Holder took away those federal protections in 2013. But now, with the SAVE Act, we're seeing this hit a new level. I mean, poll taxes are unconstitutional. The
Yeah.
24th
Definitely.
Amendment, yeah, it was passed in 1964. And it eliminated poll taxes. Well, this SAVE Act is reinstituting the poll tax, which is unconstitutional. So you need to have access to your documents. So if most people, I don't know where my birth certificate is right now. I have a little birth abstract, but I don't have my birth certificate. So
Yeah.
I have to go through the state to get it. That costs money. You need a passport. I have a passport. It's only good
Yeah.
till 2030, but I mean, I have my married name. I don't have my maiden name. Those aren't the same names. So
Yeah.
that's $125 if you want to get a passport. There are fees associated with everything that you need in order to vote under this SAVE Act, which is
Yeah.
in the Senate right now.
Yeah. So if listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, we transitioned. Thank you for that transition because we're just going to jump into that. We're talking about the bill that's going through the Save American Voter Eligibility Act that was put through. It just passed through the House. Of course, we knew it was going to happen, and it puts all these stringent things in. People are going, well, why don't Democrats want IDs? Don't they want the voting systems to be legitimate? I mean, we're for it, right? They're even passing around this fake data and information saying that 90% of Democrat voters want this put into place, which is just a complete lie because they're manipulating it. They're basing this off of a survey that was done that was asking, do you want to see voter session more secure? So it's kind of like a general question, and they've tied it into here. So they've manipulated that information and the data as well on that. So it's, very, very, very concerning.
It is. And the idea that people think that our elections are not safe, you were describing to me some of the procedures that are in place to ensure that elections are safe. Why don't you explain a little bit of that? Because people need to know that.
So I've done a whole podcast on this, like almost 45 minutes, because we were so in. If people out there don't know who I am, I worked for the Florida Democratic Party as their chief technology officer, security officer, and then later on I worked for the DNC, and then I worked on a bunch of presidential campaigns and a lot of other ones. But one of the things that we did, because we knew once Donald Trump was running for office that we had to make sure that we cover all of our bases. And one of the things that we did was we audited voting machines without physically touching those voting machines, because in the end, we didn't want Donald Trump and his administration to come back and say, hey, what happened to these ballots between this place and who touched them and all these other things. And through our extensive auditing, we found that the voting machines and the processes in place, at least in the state of Florida, were what we would see above standard for that, although some may want to argue that as well. Even like, for example, the Conservative Heritage Foundation, they released and said during that 2020 election that it was a secure election as we go through. CISA also said it was one of the most secure elections out there that they've seen in almost a decade or so. That's kind of where I come from for it. So I have full confidence in the processes, the SEOs that handle that, and also the end data of everything, right? The results of everything. I'm very confident. What I'm not confident in, and I'm not going to go on too long because I want you to talk, is I think what affects the outcome of elections more than anything else is the misinformation, misdirection, and the disinformation that exists, the propaganda. That has the most effect on anything. If we can combat that, and Trump is the propaganda king. There's no doubt in that. I've never seen anybody better than that, besides Germany and a few other places in the 1940s. So,
George Creel was really good at it in World War I, but
yeah.
He was. Misinformation, disinformation, I always get those. Which is the right way to say it? Disinformation?
No, so misinformation is generally passed around. Somebody will release it and you're on social media, right? And they'll pick it up and go, that falls in line with what I believe. And without even checking it, they'll kind of push it around. So it doesn't cause a lot of harm. Disinformation is usually planted. It's designed, it's planted. And it's meant to cause some type of disruption. And we see this happening. I saw this happening 2020 election. It was so widespread, and we had to put a team together to combat this, and it was like a 24-hour job to be able to combat this. And then besides that, there's malinformation, which is something that actually causes severe harm, a death or whatever else that may go along with that. So, again, the Trump administration with his supporters, with his cabinet, they've really got this down to a fine art. It's hard to battle.
Yeah, they surpassed Goebbels any day of the week.
Yeah. They no longer need to fly over on a plane and drop pamphlets.
No.
Now they've got World Wide Web social media.
That's it. Now everybody just goes like this and blah, blah, and they check.
This is the most powerful propaganda machine that you can. Sorry, there's my grandkids.
That's all right. There's my resist sign. You can't see it now. Of course not.
Nice.
I tell my students that I feel sorry for them in so many ways when it comes to getting truthful information. Yeah. Because people respond to what they believe in, like you were saying. If it aligns with what we think, then we're going to push that information forward. we don't know what's real and what's not anymore
Yeah.
unless you research it. Or if you know history, if you know government,
Yeah.
and you're like, that doesn't make any sense, so I'm going to go look it up. Back in the day, I always tell them this. I sat down with my dad for the 6 o'clock news, and
Yeah.
we trusted that our news that we were receiving was validated or verified by three different sources, that they weren't opinion. Was there time that it might have sounded a little bit like it was going there? Sure, Walter Cronkite went there during the Vietnam War, but we just figured these people are just delivering us the news, and it was all fact checked, and we didn't have to like worry about it. At least that was my belief at the time. I'm sure people will be like, well, it wasn't exactly like that, but that's how it felt for me. I didn't have an internet to go research stuff. I didn't have anything else.
That's right.
Right, there were no conflicting points of view being tossed at us at the time, at least not in my household. And so now, when we open up our phone, which is our number one news source, we have to try to figure out what's real and what's not. And one of the things I teach is the difference between fact and opinion. You know, if you can't tell the difference between fact and opinion,
Yeah.
then this is bad. It's worse than I even imagined. And so, but people don't. They don't.
No, they don't.
So like propaganda machines like Fox News, they're sticking to the same message. They're just going on
Yeah.
that same message, and it's a false narrative. It's just a
And
false narrative. They're pushing their agenda. And when people start making comments about other people, these newscasters, they're talking about other people being like wrong and
yeah.
moronic and whatever. I'm like, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
That has
It's not
nothing to do with
fact.
fact.
That's
And
not
that,
fact.
right, but these people that watch Fox News are like, it's all true.
It's
And
all right and
I,
it's all true.
yeah, and I could say the same about MSNBC to a degree. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't watched, I'll be honest, I haven't turned on a news channel since the morning Donald Trump was reelected.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
when I did, I turned on Morning Joe, and they started to kiss Donald's butt after all of uh, the episodes prior that were basically saying all the things that he's going to do. It's going to be horrible, and then they're kissing his ass. And I went, I'm done. Click. And I've just been finding my own news. I mean, I hear something, I
yeah.
research it. That's how I validate
Yeah,
it.
that's what I've been doing. I mean, a lot of people depend on TTN News, the a TikTok news channel, and it's just sorry, that's what I call it.
Yeah.
I'm big on like acronyms, like so, and that's where they get their stuff from. And I used to go, I would post something, and I get so passionate about it that all the comments I'll start answering them, and then before you know it, I'm spending like 6 hours like answering all these things, and it's not getting through to anybody. And I know from my experience, from decades of being involved, you're not going to change anybody's mind that already has that stuck in here. It's just not going to happen. They call us. They'll say, well, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I've come up with something called TAS, Trump arrangement syndrome. And this is where believers in Trump take everything that, even if he did it wrong, and they rearrange it where he's right, and that it's a positive thing. And so I'll have to send you this little thing that I made on that. It's like a whole
Yeah,
diagram.
please.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send it to you. So it's pretty neat. But to me, it's a real syndrome. I'm not a psychologist, but after I did that, I should have been one, I think. But
Well, there's something to that. There is something to that. They
there is.
they'll rearrange the whole reality,
Yeah, I'm hoping
just
that like
for the-
CNN will get a hold of me and go, "Wow, that was brilliant," but it's not gonna happen. Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. CNN not your favorite? Is that what you're saying?
No, no, actually, they were my favorite at one point in time, and I was actually supposed to go on CNN, and my boss went in my place anyway to talk about what we were doing, and I was so disappointed in
Oh,
that because I had called everybody and said, "Yeah, I'm going to be on CNN," and it just didn't happen. So he
yeah.
ended up going in and talking about what we were doing in Florida, and he did a better job than me anyway, I think. So hey, all good.
Something tells me this is getting in the cut category.
I know, yeah, I think that's exactly. No, I put it out there. I get, you know what, man? Sometimes I'll say stuff. I'll send you an article that got written about me for in the Miami Herald,
Mhm.
and I said a bunch of stuff in there that just got me into so much trouble. So,
Really?
yeah, I did. But so I tend to be like that. But I also tend to stand the ground on what I think is right, and I will not, no matter what party it is, stand there and watch something that's not right. I'll voice myself and I'll come out and talk about it and I'll go against it.
Absolutely. Because
So,
that's the point we're at right now. I mean, it's not
yeah,
about left and right. And I'm sure people have seen this meme everywhere, but I've always felt this way. It's not about left and right. It's about right and wrong.
that's right.
You
Exactly
know?
what it's about. It's about
Yeah.
morality.
Yeah.
It's about having, understanding and being passionate about life and other people's lives and respecting their lives and realizing that everybody's human. I mean, in the words of, Bad Bunny, I mean, everybody, they're human, and we're showing the ugliest, just grotesque part of America that's been hidden for so long. It's always been there.
Always. It's never
Yeah,
gone away.
yeah.
Trump
And as
just gave it
a,
permission.
yeah, he gave her permission to come. He made it normal. Like everything else that's going on is now normal. I
Mm.
mean, presidents are not supposed to act and talk the way he did, but he's made it normal, and it's like a reality show that just has not gone away. It did go away for
It's
four
a bad
years.
one. It's a
Oh,
really
very,
bad
very
one.
bad one.
Unbelievably
Yeah.
awful, terrible show. Probably has the worst ratings of all time.
Well, not according to him. It's the
I
best
know.
ratings. It's never
The
the
biggest
in history.
inauguration, the biggest
Yeah.
everything. Something
The
tells me he's
Melania
trying
show
to
movie.
compensate for something that's not so big. But
Yeah,
I
definitely his wallet.
digress.
Well, now his wallet's big, and
Yeah, the fact that people ever believe that he was like the self-made billionaire, he has
yeah,
literally the emoluments clause of the Constitution. It
yeah,
prevents presidents from profiting from their position. They're supposed to divest of all of their stocks and bonds and companies and whatever before they
yeah,
take office. And this guy has not, and he has milked the system and
yeah.
made billions off of it. So
Oh,
he,
definitely. Look at
he's rich
I
as
think they
he's
said he
ever
made
been.
13 billion while in office.
Yeah, I think it was higher than that.
Yeah.
I think it was like 20 something
Is
billion.
it? Gosh, I gotta go read again. But yeah,
Yeah,
God, I
I'll
wish
have
I
to
could
go.
get rich that quick.
I mean, think about that. This is a man who went bankrupt six
Yeah.
times. Six times. And then he becomes president and he becomes wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. And they're
Yeah.
thinking this guy, he knows what he's doing. I know people that are pretty moral people who
Yeah.
voted for him the first time because they thought he's a good businessman, he'll run the country like a
Yeah.
business. But businesses aren't people. You
No,
can't
they're not.
country like you would an entity. You have to deal with
Yeah.
the people.
And the government is not a business. And I'm not trying to ring my bell, but I wrote an unbelievably great article, kudos to me, talking about the government is not a business. And I go into detail like why this wouldn't work, why it can't be run this way without breaking laws and without causing harm to the American people, because there's just no way to do it. You're gonna have
And
to sidetrack things.
I can't say that it was never run like a business because the founding fathers, the people that signed the Constitution and all that, these guys, a chunk of them were slaveholders. And so they were
Yeah.
making sure that they were getting their profits by ensuring that slavery still existed. So
Yeah.
it's not like it wasn't hard baked into the Constitution from the beginning that it can operate in the best interests of those in power
Yeah.
because it does. They've always been self-interested people that run for office. Not all, but for the most part,
Sure.
it seems like you have to be, there's a certain mindset a person has to have. And one of them, that mindset, is like being able to compromise your value in order to get anything done in DC. And I'm like, no, how about you don't compromise your values and you
Yeah.
just keep pushing the word, get the word out that this is wrong what's happening. I'm not going to compromise it. I'm not going to about to start to use some AP government terms. I'm not going to use them. Um, but we can't be attaching all these riders and whatever to bills in order to, make us look good to our constituents for a hot second and then get reelected. Because the people in office right now are far more interested in keeping their jobs than doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Like, I'm not going to let like the secrets out and what happens in a campaign with with the elected official if people are running. But the truth is, the main concern is, can I get the votes? How am I going to get the votes?
Yeah.
And what can I promise to get those votes?
How about you just do your job? This is my philosophy.
Yeah, or do the work of the people.
Work for the people.
Yeah.
You get a good comms team to make sure they know you're doing that work for them. You will get reelected.
Oh,
you
definitely.
You don't need to be on the phone for hours a day calling donors.
And results, try running for office. Oh, yeah, that's the next thing. Are you going to run for office? Sorry, I'm going to ask you that. Are you thinking about it?
I do think about it, and I'll tell you, I've been thinking about it since second grade when my teacher told me that I'd be the first female president of the United States. And I looked at her and I went, sure.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's plausible. No, I mean, I kind of forgot about that dream, I guess you could call it, for many years, many years, from the time I became a single mother in my 20s and through my divorce, when I ended up married and divorced, whatever. I was like, oh no, that's like, people don't vote for people who have children out of wedlock. People don't vote for people who are, although Ronald Reagan was divorced, so what was I thinking? And so I just said, nah, I have too much of a history. Nah, now anything goes.
Well, I think you need to jump in a race.
Yeah, but I live in a place that's blue as blue can be.
Yeah, but blue as blue can be doesn't mean things are still right. They don't.
Oh, I know. And there's one of my senators that I would love. He's been there forever. I would love to get his seat. I really would. But I mean, really, I'm going to jump in to a Senate race. People don't know. They know me as a teacher, I might be on social media, but I don't have like millions of followers. I did get a pretty decent sized following in a relatively short amount of time, but
well, look at Mandani.
But he's been in local politics.
That has a very small margin, counting on what you did and how you did it. Whether or not there's people who sit in neighborhood boards, there's people who sit in positions and they never get elected because they've got this history of like they're not working for the best of the people. But I think if you can display and talk about the things that you can do honestly, not go out and say, hey, I'm promising you the world, like you're going to go into the grocery store in 6 months and you're going to get you're going to get eggs for 1,700% off.
Right.
Using
like
Trump's mentality type of a thing. People want to hear the truth. They want to know the truth. They want to know what you can do when you go in. Every politician, oh man, I might not get a job after this, way over promises what they can do, even though they know they cannot do it. They know straight out they cannot do that. Mm-hmm. And they're going to promise it. It's because it's the issue and it's what's important, instead of being honest and saying, listen, I'm running for Senate, I'm running for this, and this is what I can do.
Right.
And these are my barriers, but I'm going to fight. Like, I'm going to fight as hard as I can fight to get this done for you. I really will. And in 2 years or 4 years, if I haven't done it for you, vote me out. Get rid of me.
Vote me out, yeah. If I haven't done my job, I don't deserve the job.
Yeah. And get rid of me ahead of time, I mean, hey.
Do a recall?
Non-violently, of course.
A recall election will do.
The recall election will do. But yeah, I would think you should consider that, from my experience. I think that would be actually a value to where you're at and in general. Just throwing it out there.
Okay. Well, I will say this, would love to. For whatever reason, I have not been interested in getting involved in local politics. But when it comes to the national level, that's where I've always been like, I want to be there. But how effective can anybody be right now with these people in office. Like, we need the entire House, maybe not every single seat, but people need to vote these buggers out. Like,
Oh, yeah.
2026, let's flip this whole thing. Let's get some good people in. You know, the problem is that there's so much money in politics that you don't hear about the good people.
No, you don't. I mean, I'm going to share something with you. Like, I ran for office last round, but I decided to pull out because I felt like I needed to go work on the presidential campaign that was more important. And so I did pull out. But one of the things I projected, right, because you need a win number to be able to be serious about running, like how many votes do I actually need? And then the other thing you need is like how much money do I actually need? And, you know, I looked at it, we did a projection, and first of all, I wouldn't have came even close to running. And I'm thinking about running this year too, but I'm looking at the projections and how much money I would need. And at this point, there's no way I could run everything grassroots.
Yeah.
It's not worth the effort because then the outcome's not going to be what I want, and I'm not going to be able to get my
See, that's what kills me. It kills me because we can't be taking PAC money. We
No, we
cannot
can't.
be taking PAC money. We cannot be beholden to corporations, super PACs, whatever the heck you want to call it, or rich people even. You just cannot be beholden to anybody when you're serving the people.
No.
You know? So there are people who've done grassroots and have gotten elected. It's happened.
Yeah.
But once they're in office, it seems like there's some sort of switch that gets flicked, and they're like,
Yeah,
they're just
almost
intent on
100%
getting
that
real.
happens.
Yeah, it's like now all of a sudden they're just interested in getting reelected.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, you know what? That is the last thing I want to, I don't ever want anybody to be so comfortable in their position in Congress
Right.
that they are bargaining with the devil, essentially,
Oh,
in order to
definitely.
keep their job.
We need to even the playing field. We really do.
Yeah.
There need to be reform put into place. A lot of good people that want to run for office that would make a huge difference. But when it comes down to it, when you look at this and you see how much money you need to run, like for example, if you wanted to run for governor of Hawaii right now, you would have to have in your battle chest at the beginning close to $1 million to start. Who's going to have $1 million? The average Joe? It's just not going to
Can you
happen.
raise $1 million by putting out the word and having fundraiser and get $10, $5, whatever from all these people?
Definitely you can, but then I tell you what, then you've got them having special interest in going to places like, oh, if I talk about, never mind, I'm not going to mention this part of it because everybody
We'll
will know
talk
who I'm
about it
talking
later.
about. We'll talk about it later. But
We'll
they'll
talk
go
about
and they'll get $3 million, $4 million, and there's no competing with that kind of money.
But what does that get you? You have $3 million, so what? So you're going to have, what, a billboard? You're going to, I don't know, buy internet ads? Like, what exactly are you getting for this $3 million? That's my question.
Yeah, so you're getting probably one of the best teams possible to get you elected. That is one of the key things. You're having the best minds, you're having the people with the experience, and then those people are going to make the decisions. Like the candidate really doesn't make a whole lot of decisions, right? So his team will come in, his campaign manager, whoever it may be. Later on, they'll all move into the administration when this is all done.
Yeah.
But they'll come in, and these are the people that are getting paid like a full staff. Some people have like a data guy, some people have a manager, like a campaign manager. They'll have organizers, directors, and all of these things. And these are the things, especially the groundwork people like the directors and stuff, they'll go out and knock doors and everything else. And those are the ones that are important. And they'll have huge staffs where you can't do that grassroots unless you got people to believe in you. And you got people that are going to come and say, I'm going to support this candidate because I actually believe in him, and I'm going to go knock on 1,000 doors a day and get the word out for him. And that's hard to do too, because after a while people will either burn out or they're not going to be as motivated. A whole different show, sorry. Whole different show.
No, I'm listening, I'm absorbing.
Yeah, I've got so much information on how this whole process works. You know, I should talk about a little bit more about it and educate people
I would like to know more about this.
on this stuff. Yeah, it'd be great if we can get on another podcast in the future and just kind of talk a few more things. Nice.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Definitely.
I'm gonna conclude this one because you've just been such a great guest, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. And I'm just gonna leave you like with the last word.
With the last word,
Last
okay,
word.
one thing people are always asking me about is what they can do. We're not powerless. That's the biggest misnomer out there, is that we have no power. We have power. We elect these bums. We can unelect them. That's the biggest thing right there. That's our
Yep.
power. That's our superpower.
Yeah.
Stay informed, use credible sources. And I know that's hard to do nowadays, but when you find somebody who's credible, stick with it. Stick with them and be informed, because even the founding fathers knew the most important thing a country, a democracy can have is an informed citizenry. Okay? So
Very true.
educate yourself, stay informed, vote in every election. Doesn't matter if it's for the postmaster of the town, whatever it is. Understand how government works. I know I'm putting a big list, but this is stuff, these are
No, go
basics.
for it. This is what I
These are
wanted.
basics. Yeah. Get a good understanding of how government works so that you know when it's not working properly. And let me tell you something, right now, nothing's working the way it's supposed to. There are some lower courts that are holding the line, but once it reaches the Supreme Court, because there will be appeals, then not so good.
Yeah.
So my final message is basically democracy only survives because ordinary people refuse to stop participating in it. We refuse, and I refuse. I will never give up, and it might get me in trouble, and I don't care. And people keep saying, you're so brave. No, I'm not. You know, I'm afraid. But bravery is just moving through fear. So move through your fear, get out there, do something. Whatever you can do, do. I found what I could do to help, and that was to help educate people.
Definitely.
So find what you're good at and go do it. That's my message.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then also let everybody know where they can find you, follow you.
Goodness, yes. I am on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Substack. Jayne Converse 3 on most of those things.
Okay.
Or you can drop 3 sometime. You'll find me. Just put Jayne Converse. I
No
pop up.
worries. And I will also put it when I post this. I'll put it in the section, in the bio section of mine, and everybody can kind of follow along with this. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, and I hope
Thank
you
you,
warm up.
Sam.
No worries.
Yeah. I've
Aloha.
got lots of blankets. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.